When any great army needs to change their course in the middle of battle, they have a war council to decide the best possible way to continue on in the combat, and that's what we're doing tonight. Because the Inner Circle's been in a little bit of a decline over the last few weeks, over the last few months, but it's easily remedied because we are the smartest in the business today. So it's time for a new attitude, time for a new outlook. Maybe even it's time to introduce a new member into the Inner Circle.
Whoa, 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 whoa. Chris, with all due respect, I really don't think we need to add a new member, Chris. Matter of fact, quite the contrary, Chris. If I'm being honest, I think maybe it's time we let somebody go.
And we're back. So on a post-pay-per-view show full of surprises and turns, we had probably one of the biggest surprises to end out the show. What do you guys think about the new 5 Horsemen?
So, you know, before how I said the highlight of the episode was the lawnmower scene, I lied. This was the highlight of the episode.
Oh my god, the swerves,
This was
the
amazing.
Swerves.
I mean, you all know I've been a huge fan of the Inner Circle. I've actually defended the faction several times on this podcast. I thought this was like amazing. A swerve on a swerve. Having Sammy walk out. I knew as soon as Jake and Santana and Ortiz stepped forward, I knew they were going to actually be on the side of Jericho.
Yeah.
I did not expect it.
Really?
To be honest with you, I really thought, like, I don't know if it's me putting the bar a little too low for Inner Circle for it to be like that predictable, but I did not expect the Inner Circle to turn on MJF. I don't know. I didn't expect it.
To be fair, I feel like AEW in general leading up to this pay-per-view had gotten very predictable. Even Dynamite.
Well,
we talked
exactly.
about how some of us stopped watching Dark because, like, you just know what's going to happen. And I felt that way about Dynamite for a long time. I was expecting more surprises at the pay-per-view, other than the ones that were teased. That didn't really happen. But, whoa! Talk about a swerve.
So I was sure that I was absolutely positively sure that because Sammy came out and they weren't putting Sammy in some different storyline, I was 100% sold that the Inner Circle would stay the Inner Circle and turn on MJF. But I did not expect MJF to be aligned with FTR and Tully, because on the last episode we talked about the idea of them forming the 4 Horsemen but with Cody Rhodes. I never ever thought about putting MJF in there. Now that I think about it, I'm like, that should have been, it's perfect. It should have been my number one choice.
well because MJF like was already with the faction. He was already like really, his storyline was pretty entrenched with Inner Circle already. I mean, for me personally, I was pretty damn sure that he was going to take over the Inner Circle. So,
do you remember what I said last week? So I said, before I flip out over the fact that Jericho and MJF lost so quickly because they just formed as a tag team, this is their first match, and they lost against the Young Bucks, I was like, before I flip out, I want to see where the story goes. And my comparison was to watching a TV show, for example, Game of Thrones. You're on like season 1, and you don't know where it's going. And so they do something, and you question the motive of the character, or you question whatever the storyline or plot is. But it all makes sense once you get to episode 9 or 10 of season 1, right? And I was like, that's what I was trying to like say. I was like, I want to see where the story goes. And remember, Aaron, I said that I found it weird for them to break up the tag team of MJF and Chris Jericho so soon, because Jericho normally, when he gets involved in a storyline, it lasts a long time. So technically, yes, they broke up the tag team, but it is part of still the storyline. So it all makes sense. And I thought it was amazing. I thought this was, honest to God, like the Inner Circle. I said this many times on the podcast. Chris Jericho is the reason why I started watching AEW. and I continue to watch AEW because I just love the program and the talent involved. But I think the Inner Circle, for me personally, I think the Inner Circle is what has been like the go-to faction. Those wrestlers have been the wrestlers, or their storylines have been the ones I've been most invested in since the start. Not always, but like when I think back at the Jon Moxley storyline with Chris Jericho and the Cody and just a bunch of stuff that's happened with the Inner Circle, them going to Vegas, the dinner du Bonaire, all of this stuff. Like they're always finding ways to reinvent themselves, and they are still a faction 2 years in, like 2 years later, because they formed as a faction on the very first episode of Dynamite. They are still a faction, and they are still finding ways to make it interesting so we don't get bored.
Exactly. I mean, like, if there's one thing I can say about like Chris Jericho and his creative like take on the factions and everything. I mean, like what I admired always about Inner Circle, no matter like how bad, you know, maybe sometimes like, you know, an episode with the Inner Circle doesn't go anywhere. I always felt like it in the end it always mattered, you know, I felt like no matter like how lost the storyline might be, but it always just seemed to have a direction, and that's what I appreciate about like Inner Circle. Because when you look like I said, like going back to like Kenny Omega or Young Bucks or whatever, or other factions, like the storyline is always like convoluted and messy, and it's always going like a million directions. But like Chris Jericho and Inner Circle always went in the same direction. They've always been about Inner Circle and always been about championships. So
and friendship. Like the main theme
and friendship,
here, yeah, that's the reoccurring theme. It's friendship, and you see it in this episode where Jericho's like, "Do you actually think that we haven't spoken to each other every single day?" Of course we have. Sammy's his best friend. They have
the
to
power
be,
of friendship.
So. Yeah,
they have
for
to,
sure.
Yeah.
I'm telling you, this was amazing. It was like you said, Mariko. It was so obvious. It was so clear as day. Put MJF with FTR, and well, maybe not Shawn Spears. I still question that choice. I know.
I always wanted
Shawn
him
Spears
as part of FTR. I think he
he
makes a good heavy. I think his work style complements them.
Yeah, he needs to
I
be
was
in there.
surprised they actually did it because we'd all been speculating it was going to happen for so long. And then, was it at the pay-per-view or was it last week on Dark when
It was last
came
week.
out?
Yeah.
Yeah.
He came out during the Jungle Boy Luchasaurus match.
That's right. That's right. Yeah. So when that'll happen, it's like, oh, okay. So we are getting like 4 Horsemen or whatever. Cool. I'm looking forward to that. And then this happened. We're like, 5 Horsemen and Wardlow's one of them, and FTR versus it, Proud and Powerful. Oh my God.
So, I mean, I guess technically it is still 4 Horsemen because Wardlow is considered a bodyguard.
Bullshit.
In the eyes of MJF, Wardlow is considered the help. Okay?
Yes,
MJF is like not letting him take the spotlight, even
Fuck
though
off.
Wardlow is clearly the best wrestler in that lineup.
But that is true, though. He is being, you know, it's gonna be, you know, 4 Horsemen with Wardlow
And the manager and the butler. Well, not the butler, the bodyguard. Yeah, for sure.
Yeah.
I think that's the way they're going to frame it because
Exactly.
There'll always be 5 Horsemen in my heart.
look, Wardlow is by far, I think, the best wrestler of, well, he might actually be the best wrestler of those 5 guys. He's definitely the biggest.
I would 100% agree with that. like Wardlow is like that. Like even like JR during the commentary, like he wasn't like pushing Wardlow even though he wasn't like.
Yeah, JR did some really bad commentary though. Like that's what I don't like about JR. He's trying so hard to sell the dudes that he loves. Okay, fine, but you don't put everyone else under a bus live on TV when you're doing commentary. He does this over and over again.
Yeah.
He especially he likes to put, and I love Jack Perry. Jungle Boy is one of my top 5. But whenever Jungle Boy's in the ring, like he loves to put him over and put everyone down. So in this segment, he just kept on raving about Wardlow and made it seem like he's the only person that's really worth a damn in this new faction, which is very odd for an announcer to do.
Well, he was putting in the work, like, you know, destroying Jericho, but I totally get the argument.
Yeah, I just wish he would stop trying to make woman handle happen. Anytime Nyla Rose gets her hands on someone, he refers to it as being woman handled, and I just want him to stop.
Well, he has said some dumb shit in the past, so
I mean, I'm sure, and I know he's trying, but like, just don't.
It's funny to watch or not watch. It's funny to listen to JR try and do commentary when it's a bunch of Japanese girls in the ring wrestling. He has no idea what to do or say. He doesn't even know their names. Thank God for Excalibur, which a lot of people, again, we talked about the commentators a while back. I like the trio. I think they complement each other. But a lot of people, for whatever reason, don't like Excalibur. I'm like, if you don't have Excalibur, I don't know who can actually keep up with the rotating door of constant new talent going in and out of AEW, and especially all these wrestlers that come from places like Impact and New Japan and so on and so forth. Like Excalibur is like a walking dictionary. He knows every move, everyone's name, their history. He does his homework. And JR,
he knows he's a punching bag, and he knows how to take it, and it's.
yeah.
I think he's good at it.
Yeah, but
like,
I just feel
even
like
-1 was telling him to shut up. Oh man, yeah, you should have checked out Dark last week. He was doing like interpretive dance in the back while Ty Conti, sorry, was wrestling. It was hilarious.
Oh, I missed last week's. I watched this week's though. Fuego de la Sol.
Oh yes,
finally hit his tornado DDT, and it was amazing.
Yeah, that was a beautiful thing to see.
Yeah. So I don't know. I mean, I'm kind of a little let down. It's not Cody. At the same time, I thought this was an incredible swerve.
I mean, I've defended Cody a lot, and I still like Cody, and you know, he's a good worker, and he's. But the whole martyr complex, like, it is easy to laugh at.
Well, it is, and sometimes it just goes a little too far. Well, not too far, but like, you know, it's too much.
Yeah.
So, it is what it is. But you know, like I said, going back to our topic, I mean, MJF like as the leader of the quote unquote Four Horsemen, because at this point I don't know if they're going to call themselves the Four Horsemen. Are they going to call themselves the Four Horsemen?
I don't think so. I think
there's legal ramifications, right?
No, actually, no. You know who owns the rights to the Four Horsemen though? It's Conrad, and he was on the show last week.
Oh, really?
Yeah, he owns the rights. The reason why I mentioned the Four Horsemen and the whole idea of putting Cody in the Four Horsemen was because Conrad was there, and I know he owns the rights to the Four Horsemen. Why he owns the rights, I have no idea, but he does.
Yeah, because like that's what I'm trying to wrap my head, because you would figure at the end, you know, with the camera looking up on the ramp, like you would maybe see them put up the Four Horsemen symbol. So that's why like I'm trying to figure out, like, are they really going to go as the Four Horsemen, or is it just going to be
well, because they were doing the four when Shawn Spears joined them, so like I don't know what's going on with that.
Not only that, but Arn did the Four Horsemen.
Yeah, that's the thing. Like Arn still thinks he's a horseman, so like I don't know what the new faction's going to be, but I'm excited for it.
No, I'm totally excited for it too. And now that you mention Arn too, it's like, well, what angle does it spin with Arn and MJF and this new quote unquote Four Horsemen, you know?
Ooh, Arn versus MJF.
You think?
Main event next pay-per-view.
Leadership of the Four Horsemen are passing it.
But you know, but here's the bigger question. So it's clearly going to be MJF versus Sammy, not MJF versus Jericho. Or at least I hope. But then what do they do with Jericho?
Jericho against Wardlow.
He gets to fight Arn?
Well, yeah, maybe. I don't. You have FTR versus Santana and Ortiz. You got Jake Hager versus Wardlow. You got Sammy versus MJF. And what? Chris Jericho versus Shawn Spears? Or is it going to be
Shawn Spears can get a good match out of anyone, and so can Jericho. It'll be entertaining as hell. Like, I know Shawn Spears isn't the most charismatic guy, but he can work his ass off. He is a fantastic worker.
For sure. And who else to, like, you know, get some like promo chops, or like getting some promo skills than working with Chris Jericho.
But it totally makes sense. It's 5 versus 5.
Yep.
The only thing is they have Tully, and they don't really have anyone like Tully on their side as a manager.
I mean, MJF is kind of, Jericho is kind of that role. Like he
Yeah.
kind of has like a dual role within the faction.
Mm.
Anyhow, I'm really excited. Like, I knew something big was going to happen because they ended the show with the War Council. I thought they were going to
Yeah,
introduce a
something
new
big
wrestler.
had to happen.
Yeah. By the way, where is Shaq? Where is Shaq? Has anyone seen Shaq?
He's still unconscious somewhere. I don't know.
So
And-
that's gonna
and
be
every-
it's just like bizarre. It's really really weird how they just completely forget about some storylines and angles, and Shaq is one of them. It's just bizarre.
Well, I mean, at this point, man, I don't know what to think anymore about the whole like Shaq disappearance. So he's somewhere. He's certainly doing commentary for NBA. I mean, we know he's back there. So
And from what I can tell, the match was well received, so we may see him wrestle more again. Who knows?
yeah, who knows? I mean, the last thing I need though is seeing Shaq like appear out of a lamp. So I don't know.
Been there, done that. And on that note, I think it is a wrap for the evening. I'd like to thank Mr. Aaron Santos for joining us,
No problem.
and Mr. Ricky D.
Thank you, and just a reminder to our listeners, you can find the podcast over at goombastomp.com and just check the wrestling section and our podcast section. And inside each individual post, you'll find the links of where you can listen to the podcast, which includes iTunes, Spotify, YouTube, Podbean, Apple, which is iTunes, whatever. Like, it's everywhere, Amazon, you name it. If you like what you hear, leave us a rating on iTunes, I guess. Leave us a rating anywhere. And if you want to reach out to us, you can always email us at editor@goombastomp.com.
Or you can send us a tweet at Talk AEW on Twitter. All right, once again, this has been Talk AEW. Wishing you all a good night.